2026 provides an opportunity to deliver even more progressive wins this November. Join us this summer ahead of the midterms by investing in the Progress Texas Summer Sustaining Donor Drive, funding pro-democracy, pro-justice, progressive messaging made by Texans for Texans. At Progress Texas, we're asking our supporters to become monthly donors, and for those already on the team, to increase their monthly support. Because with your partnership, we can get the message out across Texas in this critical year. We'll thank you with perks for progress. Choose from our exclusive Resist coffee mug, a Progress Texas summer koozie, or a progressive button pack. Plus, you'll get a shout out on the Daily Dispatch. Thanks in advance for doing your part to build the progressive Texas we all want to live in today.
My name is Lisa Batson. I am a retired CEO. I support Progress Texas because Chris is really funny. And secondly, it's important for people of Texas to know what's going on in our state. And I'm tired of media being dominated by ruthless billionaires.
It's Friday, July 17th, 2026, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. Progress Texas amplifies progressive values, leaders, and actions through our no-paywall podcasts and digital media. We make Texas politics easy to understand and to participate in, and your support for fact-based independent media hands the mic to millions of Texans. Huge thanks to Leslie O'Laughlin, Jim Bates, and Sandra Seifert for their ongoing sustaining support. Much appreciated. A second consecutive year of disastrous flooding in Texas as a persistent system of torrential rain now moving north but still hammering a huge area of Texas from Wichita Falls down to San Angelo has submerged entire neighborhoods across the Texas Hill Country. AP reporting says Governor Greg Abbott has confirmed 2 fatalities. One motorist swept away near Uvalde and another victim in Kerr County whose mobile home was deluged. Staggering rainfall totals have exceeded 20 to 28 inches over 72 hours, the heaviest impact in Uvalde, Hondo, and areas just west of San Antonio. Over the last few days, Texas emergency responders have executed over 200 rescues via boats and helicopters. That very low death toll, a striking contrast to last year's tragedy. This time, there has been both more fortunate forecasting and thus reaction time, and clearly lessons learned from 2025. Significantly improved flood warning processes have provided 2 to 3 days of advance warning rather than merely hours, which of course came in the middle of the night last time, all allowing those communities a lot more time to seek higher ground. We're talking basically about the same particular region as last year, too, a part of Texas that lost over 100 people in the 2025 event. Different last year also in more intense rain over a shorter period. Some local river markers this time are close to matching last year's level of rise, but a broader look indicates that overall river volumes may end up even higher in 2026, representing an even more extreme overall hydrological event. And sadly, some private property owners, local businesses, wildlife rescues, and other folks in the flood zone who are still struggling to recover or reopen from 2025 are now back to square one. These back-to-back disasters indicate what could be a new normal for Texas weather patterns. Meteorologists trace this prolonged deluge to an unusually strong upper-level atmospheric disturbance that parked a storm system directly over the hill country, merging with a warm low-pressure vortex that continually pumped heavy moisture in from the Gulf of Mexico. All happening once again in Flash Flood Alley, a region of considerable natural vulnerability with steep terrain, deep canyons, and thin soil over solid limestone that tends to force rainwater to rapidly run off directly into the hill country's narrow river basins rather than to absorb into the ground. And of course, a clear escalation of back-to-back weather crises means we got to talk about climate change here. Meteorologist Max Crawford, who works for KBTX-TV and Bryan College Station, says that while multiple factors are at play, human actions, specifically from an emissions standpoint and land development, are actively making these extreme once-in-a-lifetime events much more likely to occur with greater frequency. We're seeing it happen before our eyes. How about that show from Donald Trump last night? I was just about to doze off when it mercifully came to a close after just under half an hour of straight to the camera and way too close to a hot mic blowhard blather. I don't blame you if you didn't watch, but I did, so you didn't have to. As was expected, Trump attempted to escalate and reinvigorate urgency around his tired rhetoric about election security ahead of this November's crucial midterms, claiming to have evidence that China intervened in the 2020 election and managed that cycle to acquire 220 million U.S. voter files, though that's not the same as altered votes, and Trump offered no evidence of actual impact of the 2020 count by China. While he was chewing on that mic, The White House dumped a bunch of newly declassified intelligence documents, but curiously, they generally actually contradict the narrative of the speech, with one CIA report bending over backwards to be clear that Beijing did not covertly try to sway the 2020 election outcome. Election officials have, of course, rejected Trump's new lame salvo of conspiracy theories, noting that voter files are already commercially available and that China's actions in 2020 were along the line of common, routine, and regularly monitored political espionage, not active election interference. Trump also pressed hard for the Save America Act to be passed by Congress. Yes, he's still hung up on that, which, as we've talked about, would require a degree of citizenship proof that a great many Americans would have difficulty meeting in order to register to vote. It would most heavily disenfranchise young, low-income, and rural voters due to the high cost of obtaining the documents the Save America Act would require, most commonly passports. Trump says his crew of hand-picked loyalists have identified over 270,000 registered non-citizens across 4 U.S. states. Those same election officials and experts dispute that figure, sticking with the well-established fact that non-citizen voting is statistically vanishingly minuscule. For example, out of more than 2 million registered voters in the state of Utah, investigators found exactly 27 non-citizen registrations. That's literally 1,000th of 1%. To zoom out here, as we all know, none of this is about actual, tangible, empirical facts. This is about performative, calculated drama and pumping up the MAGA masses ahead of the midterms, priming them to follow along with Trump's outrage when his party gets their asses soundly and roundly kicked this fall. Last night's goofball speech was not about new evidence at all. It was just the next piece of an ongoing and desperate effort to delegitimize the elections ahead of time. Donald Trump is actively and systematically eroding democratic safeguards for his own personal benefit. And at the same time, he's destroying what's known as losers' consent. That's a fundamental concept in political science that refers to the willingness of the losing side, both the defeated candidates and their supporters, to accept the official results of a free and fair election. It's a cornerstone of any stable democracy. Because democratic systems rely on the peaceful transfer of power rather than force, the system can only function if those who lose agree to abide by the outcome, acknowledge the legitimacy of the winner, and agree to compete again in the next election cycle. When this consent breaks down or is undermined by allegations of fraud or rigged systems, public trust in the system erodes. This process is already clearly well underway in the United States, as this decline leads first to political instability and lower voter turnout. The next step is civil unrest. Donald Trump is setting the stage for a wave of red-headed sore losers to follow in the wake of their own shellacking this November. Picture January 6th, but everywhere this time. Austin listeners, there's a very cool event coming up in East Austin today. Our friends at Common Cause Texas are hosting a free matinee screening of the documentary film John Lewis Good Trouble at Eastside Cinema in Austin today, Friday the 17th at 12 noon. Snacks will be provided, and there's also to be a post-screening discussion on John Lewis's legacy and how we can all get into some well-timed good trouble this election season. RSVP is requested ahead of time. See that link in the show notes. This election year, you can support the real free press by investing in pro-democracy, pro-justice, progressive storytelling delivered by Texans for Texas. Join Progress Texas this summer ahead of the midterms and become a monthly donor today, or if you've already done that, to increase your giving during our summer sustaining donor drive. With your partnership, we can reach more independents, progressives, and young voters, all of whom must be mobilized to win elections this fall. We invite you to sign up or to increase your support during our summer drive, and we'll thank you with perks for progress in the form of union-made merch to match your values. Your choice between our exclusive Resist coffee mug, a sweet Progress Texas summer koozie, and a progressive button pack. Plus, you'll get a shout-out on the Daily Dispatch like this one for our friend and Progress Texas board member Nicolette Ardiente, who already gives so much but responded to the summer drive to give even more. Nicolette, we can't thank you enough for being so awesome and in multiple ways being such an important part of the Progress Texas family. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Friday, July 17, 2026. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. When lies in Texas are well funded by the far right, your support for fact-based reporting is needed and appreciated. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a terrific day and a great weekend. We'll see you again on Monday morning.